AMG Hobby Talk number 38. We are back here approaching the midpoint of July. So it is well into summertime in a lot of parts of the country. So we're going to have some fun talking about a few different things. No major product announcements this time around, although I've been hearing some good things about the Wolverine Flair Ultra products and people have been enjoying it. I checked out a couple of box breaks. Cards look nice. So we touched on that last week. So we'll definitely discuss a couple of other items happening in the store. We'll talk about the AMG's eBay store as always, as we mentioned it as well. No card shows or anything coming up for the summer. The hiatus has started, but we'll touch on a couple different things happening. So first, Collected Scallops, Collected People. Steve, back from hanging out with the family. How are you?
Well, I'm fantastic, other than I received a vacation injury and woke up yesterday with a sore back. So hopefully it's just a little 72-hour muscle spasm and will fix itself in due time. But other than that, great vacation. Shari, thanks for giving me a few days off. I 100% deserved it. And ready to get back to work.
I like your cover story. I appreciate that. I do think that the backflips was a bit much. I think, parkouring might not be for you. That might be time to retire the parkour. I would throw that out.
Absolutely.
So, Shari, how are you today?
I am great. Yep. Just made my way through the morning traffic. Got here just in the nick of time. Didn't have to do my video in the car this morning. So that was always a plus.
Although I will say it was a pretty fun kind of episode, having the interactivity of just as the show was ending, you arriving in the parking lot. So it was very interactive, gave that live feel. I think it added a little something. All right, so put across the scrolling on the bottom some of the contact points, the Instagram and also the website, amgcollectibles.ca. I do always recommend it as kind of a hub to be able to access a lot of the different things. If you want to check out the eBay store, that's a good place. And again, you want to see where the YouTube channel is, that's the place. All the hubs are there. Links are always in the description as well. So if you want to access some of those things as well there, those are good places. If you want to get access to people quicker, use some of those contact points. You'll get a quicker answer. Otherwise, you can leave something in the comments and we'll touch on a lot of the comments most episodes. So we'll definitely have that. Okay, I'll touch on a couple of quick comments from the last episode. Doug actually chimed in on one of these. The show always seems to have 25 or so tables from new vendors. The last show was even more vendors. So thank you, Doug, for giving some insight on that. Billy Cilio, who I might be familiar with as well. He goes, if only you knew who built the set, you probably could have talked about it in relation to the Flair Ultra Wolverine. I don't know what he's referring to, but he just seemed an interesting comment to us that he stated. Wink. Anyway, and in Sanders Sonora, again, I don't know who these people are. So we've got, so glad to hear the show and trade night are successful. I give full credit to the owner of AMG. That seems like a veiled shot at someone else, but we appreciate the comments nonetheless.
Absolutely. We do always appreciate the comments, especially from Sanders Sonora.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had quite the illustrious commenters. By the way, you feel free to join the commenters, and we try our best, and we'll read most of the comments, most of the episodes. So thank you for that. Okay, so let's touch on a couple of things here. And then we'll do a little topic that'll be a little bit timely, since apparently everywhere else in the sports card landscape has talked about it. We'll touch on at the very end. We'll touch on that Dallas show robbery. And we can give a little flavor to it. Steve from inside the family has at least a little familiarity. We can give a little thoughts, maybe some tips and tricks and some common sense that we can offer, especially since AMG operates a store and also runs at card shows, runs a card show, and some things that unfortunately don't want to think about it. But if you're operating as a dealer, there are certain things you still need to think about, especially if you've got higher end inventory, things that you're talking about. We'll come up to that here in a minute. But before we do, we got a couple of images, Shari. So you shared some images with me, so I will share them on the screen here. We can talk about them as we go. So let's start off with that, and we'll go right here. Okay. So here we got a couple of images of some of the Upper Deck products here: Extended, Allure, and Credentials. Anything in particular you want to touch on here?
Yep. So we launched a sale on Saturday. We kind of anticipated it might only run Saturday, but we decided to extend it. So no pun intended.
Wow.
Thought you'd like that one. We have, if you buy a box of Extended series, you can also grab one of the three other products. So 21, 22, 22, 23 Allure, or the Credentials for a fixed tax included price. Call us to find out.
Nice. Exactly. Reach out to
it's a fantastic deal. It's really a no-brainer. If you're coming in to buy hockey cards, buy this, because you can't lose on this deal. So
yeah,
and it's a good way for us to move some product which may have been sitting around for a little bit, but it's flying off the shelves. So
yeah.
And kudos to Shari for putting this together while I was away. So
Nice.
Gold star for me.
There you go. Perfect. And yes, as Shari mentioned, also if you ever want to, if you want to know the pricing and everything, reach out to the store directly so that you can find out about the price. Amount redacted.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, the reason we don't, because we continue to get the question online, we do not announce or list the prices online because we are not an authorized internet retailer. That is not allowed within our contract. It's not because we don't want to, it's because we cannot. So just send us a message, call the store, come in and see, and we can get you those prices.
Yeah, exactly. So just to kind of to emphasize whatever Sherry's talking about, there are specific types of licenses that you have with Upper Deck. Certain retailers can give pricing online. If you do not have that ability, you're not allowed to. And if it is verboten, so that's and they're very stringent. There are people who will keep an eye and monitor that. That's the reason why reach out directly, and that's how you can get the answer to that question. That's why it's not visible in those places, and that's why it is redacted. So we keep that way. So we've got a nice here display of different blaster boxes here. Looks like very nicely organized, by the way. Very well done.
Thank you. Took me a couple hours, but yeah, so we decided to do a little refresh of the store. It's kind of bringing us back to when we used to be on Roby Street. We had a full upper deck wall, and you'll see in the next couple of photos different showcases that we used to have, and we wanted to get back to our roots. So I refreshed all the walls, all the showcases, and so we have many years available of upper deck blasters, retail, of course, all the newer hobby, etc. Then we get to the showcases. We used to always have a dedicated Young Gun showcase. So now that is what we've done. It's numerically organized. So from, like we said, 2003 to present. And with the PSA Submission Center here, it's kind of a nice addition to have it all PSA graded Young Guns. So come on in and get your pick.
Exactly. So this particular one, this one is the Young Gun one specifically. So you've got them all in the graded condition there. And this one here is a little bit of a mix and match, different stuff. But you've also got, you got a little Black Diamond there at the top. You've got MVP. You do have a couple of Young Guns here as well. Yep, and so a couple of the canvases.
The second shelf is all canvas. So that's all canvas Young Guns. The bottom has a mix of obviously Upper Deck and PSA, but to the right side on the bottom is just an extension of the PSA Young Gun showcase.
Exactly. And you got a couple of the Beehive, the larger ones here in the middle, and then you've got some of the Young Guns as well, including some of those silver outbursts. Yeah. So you've got a little bit of mix of different things in there, and you can check out the showcase, but the showcase is full, and you can take a good look at that and have a peek at it. So wanted to share some of those images from the store. Some good stuff. So one more thing we'll touch on here before we'll get into our little main topic this week, since we've got that opportunity. I'll emphasize for you again, Card Show is on hiatus for the summer. Trade nights will continue. We'll remind you as we get closer to the next series of them, again, every cycle towards the end of the month. But we also talk about the eBay store, so I'll quickly scan through it, but you can also check out in the description. You got the link to all this. So right now you can see some of the new stuff. There's auctions every single week. I think it's Sunday to Sunday.
Sunday to Sunday, yeah.
Perfect. So we've got that there. Again, you can check out some Future Watch, some UD Premier quad patches. So you can scroll through and check out different things, newer products, older products. There's a little bit of everything. There's been some vintage, and there are some buy it nows, but there's also auctions that are running consistently. So you're just going to see a mishmash of different things. You can check it out and see what's new, and then that'll give you. So here you go. 85 O-Pee-Chee Mary Lemieux rookie. So you can go all the way the gamut of different things as they come in and they get added to the store.
Always adding.
Just wanted to showcase that. Okay. So let's talk about this a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share, since it's been cascaded in all kinds of different places, there's no harm in talking about it here as well. Plus, as I said, we can offer a little bit of insight, given that it's running a store, given that it's running a card show, and also working at card shows. This past weekend at Dallas, there was a theft. And based on the security footage and everything, it was kind of a coordinated thing where a team of people worked towards distracting the people working the booth. And this was during the teardown period. And that's important because we'll talk about the teardown period as well, because that happens at all shows. They were able to steal a case with a lot of vintage cards, and the vintage cards in question, estimates, right? We don't know exactly the total dollar amount, and market conditions vary, but it's easily in the 7-figure category, million plus, upwards of maybe 2 million. So it's one of those things where obviously when a theft like that happens, it resonates. This one resonated because I've seen videos on it with YouTube channels that focus on Pokemon. They only do Pokemon for some reason, and this was worthy of a video on that channel. It tells you how far this has reached. So hopefully they're able to get their stuff back. But first, Steve or Shari, any initial thoughts? And then also, I want to get into some specifics, but any initial thoughts? It's sad when you hear it, but unfortunately, and this is an important note I made in my other video we did with a couple of the guys, there are thefts at a lot more shows than I think people realize. They're not all seven figures. Maybe that's why they don't make headlines, but it is important to be vigilant because this is more common than I think a lot of people think.
Yeah, absolutely. And this has happened to everyone, to different degrees. But yeah, there's obviously, it's a shame that we have to worry about things like these happening. But, obviously complacency is dangerous. Of course, I just saw a little snippet of that video, and, right off the bat, you can start pointing fingers and, say I should have done this or that. But that's part of being complacent. Just the area where the briefcase was stored, eyes weren't on that briefcase, and that's what criminals do. They, when opportunity presents itself, they take it. So I feel terrible for this person. Hopefully, they're able to recover everything, but there are steps you can take. But a lot of these guys are professionals at what they do, so they it wasn't their first rodeo, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking about it just before I hit recording. Steve can speak to it because his father works in the industry, has been a long time dealer, is not new to this. It's certainly very, very well experienced, and it's even happened to Len. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's not because you didn't have the experience or whatever. You have to be vigilant at all times. Everybody does. And but you can still do the best you can, and sometimes you still are not able to completely avoid it, but you can mitigate it. You can reduce the risk. You can do certain things that'll help you. So a really important point that I tried to make sure we emphasize in the other video that we did discussing this is, I don't want to blame the dealer. I don't want to blame the people working the booth, because you're not anticipating this. You're not hoping for this to happen to you when you're working this booth. You're dealing with people all day. Maybe you're at the end of the day, you're tired. You're not as focused on what you're doing the way as you might have been earlier in the day. So mistakes happen, but there are things you can do that maybe make it a little easier for yourself, especially if you have a process. And if you have a process that you can follow like clockwork, you don't even have to think about it. You put things in a secured place. That I think can help you. If you've got a process built in that for sure, all right, this is the important stuff. It needs to go here. Here's the spot where it's safe and it's near somebody. Doesn't matter if somebody's distracting you or talking to you. It's still within arm's reach of you. It's not far away. Yeah. So I've been playing a little footage here just so that you guys can see. I'll include a link to the Instagram here because this is from the dealer themselves. So they've shared this footage from the security camera. So if you have any information or anything, you can reach out to the Instagram. You can reach out to the local Allen, Texas PD if you can reach out to that as well. But either way, if you can get them that information, and from what I understand, I don't know how long it'll be in effect. I think there's a $70,000 bounty if you can give information towards it. So I don't know if you need a financial incentive to report something like this, but at the same time, the dealer would like to get their stuff back. So they've made a very, very strong offer to be like, if you can get us information that'll help us, there's a reward there for that.
Yeah. Definitely leaves an uneasy and unsettling feeling in the pit of your stomach, and not just for the owner, but for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So go ahead. We touched on it, before we started here. We usually just have one person that while we're packing up, and of course, again, an opportunity presents itself, that's usually when it happens. So a lot of times when you're packing up or setting up even. So we usually try to have one person. A lot of times it's Shari because she's old Hawkeye, and she'll sit there and kind of watch while we're sweating and packing up. But no, her role is very important role. Obviously, we see why. Just to keep an eye on things. And there are a few other dealers that we know. We kind of look out for each other. But you still need to coordinate because we all need to know that we have someone that is looking out for us. The other thing too that I know that I've learned in the past is, of course, we're from Nova Scotia, so when we go to the Toronto show, if there's other Maritimers there, they like to come and hang out around our booth. And as much as we love seeing our regulars and stuff like that, it sometimes I'm a little dismissive with them, because I know that's an opportunity for things to go south. You're sitting there, you're talking to your buddies from back home, and or you just get a little bit too comfortable, and that's when mistakes happen too. So a lot of times people will say, hey, can I leave my bag here? And so a lot of people from out this way kind of like to set up shop near our booth. And as much as we love you and appreciate you, there's people watching. And just like those guys that committed that theft, they were watching. So just keep that in mind when you come by and visit us. Come by and say hello by all means. But enjoy the show, basically, is what I'm telling you. And come and go as often as you please. But sometimes people can stay there a little bit too long, and you get in conversation with them, and next thing you know, your back's turned. So I always try to keep that in mind too. Again, love seeing you all, but we'll see you next week too when we get back to the store. So I've definitely learned that over the years. Like birds of a feather flock together, I guess. So the Maritime Mafia likes to roll together, and sometimes you just got to be aware of what's going on around you.
I think the same goes with people that you haven't seen, that you only see at the Toronto show. But,
right.
Like, speaking of that, a few years back, same thing. Brad got in a conversation, was talking to somebody, catching up. Next thing you know, his wallet's gone. Obviously, things happen. You get talking, you're doing deals, etc. You put something down, forget that you put it there, and it was taken within minutes, or seconds rather. So you just really have to be careful about what you're doing. And yes, you can be very trustworthy to many, but there's those few that you don't see or hear of the theft as often. Like you said, Carlos, it's more on the bigger stuff, but it is happening, and it does happen.
Absolutely. And that's my big thing with, I think, these discussions that I wanted to have, because a lot of folks have focused on the sensationalistic aspect. Again, number pops off the page. And I'll quickly show, kind of as I'm talking here, I'll showcase some of the items that were part of this, because if you look at them, if you know anything about vintage, especially in the baseball card space, the stuff that is there is truly quality stuff, like a lot of big time cards and a lot of big time names. And you can see some of the price points, like the stack of Manals here alone is massive. You got some pre-war, you've got all kinds of things, including some more obscure issues. We were talking about it when I did the video last night, recording it. One of the ones here, like you got a Babe Ruth up here. So it's not small stuff. And, 5 different distinct Hank Aaron rookies just on this one screen alone, including a lot of the pre-war and everything. So like you're talking about right there is a full scale inventory for a lot of dealers already. That's a full multiple showcases worth of stuff. So it's basically, just bear in mind. And again, this is somebody who built up a gigantic inventory. It's not everything they have, but it's still a gigantic thing. Now, one thing I wanted to touch on. So obviously we talked about it from the perspective of the individual dealers, kind of being cognizant, being vigilant. I want to talk about 2 things here. One is the teardown period, and also is kind of the running the card show side. So let's talk about the card show side of it for a second, since you guys organize a card show. The teardown period is towards the end, when things are kind of being dismantled. Part of the problem here in this case, so again, the dealer does need to be vigilant. There's certain things that I think they can do to mitigate for themselves. We can touch on that here in a second. But also the card show also has a place in this as well, because during the teardown period, this is kind of the end of the day or the end of the show. So this is the end. Really only authorized people should be there. Part of the problem here was that in the security footage, you're going to see there's a guy moving chairs, just trying to look like he's part of the crew or whatever. But who's vetting to make sure that you should be there? You're not actually part of the crew. You're not actually persons who should be moving chairs. What are you doing here? Basically. So towards the teardown, so just speaking from your card show side of things. All right, it's the end of the day. We're finishing up. People are finishing up the conversations. Do we kind of walk around and clear the room of everybody who's not a dealer, who's not supposed to be here? What's the process that we undertake here?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we necessarily walk around and clear the room. Usually our card shows end at 1. Usually by 12 o'clock, things have really slowed down. 12:30, you're really going to see a lot of the attendees that come through the door have already left. And we always tell the dealers, try not to tear down until 1 o'clock when the show
Mhm.
ends. That way we can try to mediate that and make sure that the attendees are out. But it's definitely something that we could look into to make sure that we do that to not just help us, but help the attendees and the vendors.
Yeah. And I think too, again, just kind of came to me. If you make the decision to tear down early, um, you're closed. If you're closing down, you're closed. That way, there's no distractions. You can be, tearing down your setup, and then next thing you know, hey, can I have a quick look at this card?
Yeah.
And right there is the perfect. And that kind of looks like what might have happened in this instance. The dealers around him, actually, there was a lot of empty tables there. So they were probably in the teardown process. So I think moving forward, when we make the decision at AMG to shut down,
Yeah.
we're done. So it'd be nice to make that last sale, but after seeing that video, I think whether it's 30 minutes or an hour or rate at close, when we look at each other and say, okay, let's start packing up, we're done for the day. I think that is a decision that I just, while we're talking about it, I think would be a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah. We don't like the idea. Like we always joke, it's always a running joke, Canadians are so polite and everything, and that a lot of that is true. But that doesn't mean that you have to be so polite to the point of kind of just let it let it run a little bit. It's those last couple of conversations when people are already kind of relaxed, you kind of let your guard down a little bit. And I think that was a factor in kind of this specific situation was, oh, well, most of the people have cleared out. But then there's these handful of people that are just kind of still hanging around, and now it's quiet. You got a little more room to operate there. But those people shouldn't be there. They don't belong there. They have no business being there at that point. Business should be mostly concluded at that stage. You kind of take your risk into your own hands, kind of leaving the operation half open. And in retail, by the way, I've lived it on the retail side of it. When I'm closing the gate, I don't let 3 more people in just to try to finish one last transaction. Like, especially at the end of the day, we're starting to count the money and we're like, we're done. We're closed. The last people need to get out. And as soon as they're out, we shut the gate. Even though they can see us we're counting money, we're shutting down the till, we're doing all that. It's done. There's no more business to be concluded that day.
Yeah. Just like if you're closing and you do that one more transaction, it allows someone to also do one more theft. So I think, and again, not everyone's doing that, but and there has always been that discussion that, oh, you always get the best deals on Sunday. Well, guys are cleaning up or packing up. They want, they're ready to just let something go so they don't have to pack it up. Well, that's also the way, these guys that steal think too, is, while they're doing that, there's probably something there we can grab our hands on as well. So it's definitely. I think, again, thinking about it, when we're done, we're done. And, don't want to be mean to customers, but you got to think of the big picture and protecting our inventory, basically.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it is unfortunate circumstances like this that do make you look and reevaluate, like our card show, our retail store, etc., events we go to. So yes, it's unfortunate, but it's an eye opener to many different locations as well to say, hey, you know what? This is something we need to look at a little more. This is something we need to tighten up. And in those ways, it will help others. But yeah, it's very unfortunate.
Absolutely. And I think that is the lesson. That is a takeaway. And by the way, that's the lesson takeaway for everybody. I would say just being vigilant, just being, again, a lot of this could have been mitigated if somebody had been just walking around going, hey, you're moving those chairs. Are you supposed to be here? Oh, sorry. And then one less person is hanging around that shouldn't be hanging around. And that right there, that maybe discourages folks from trying a similar type of stunt.
And then, in hindsight, I guess there's some shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Maybe don't put all the good cards in one case. Put some in this one, some in that one. But I know, a lot of people like to keep their cards in order by year, and especially, a lot of these American dealers that have, they've got ample supply of high-end cards, especially baseball. So it probably doesn't matter what briefcase they went in. There was a good value in any one of them, but just little things, you could think about for the future. And that's a shame you have to, but when we do the Toronto show, just because we don't take a lot of cards. We're kind of up there to hopefully buy, but we do take some of our higher end cards. But at the end of the day, they're a little bit easier to move around. So again, I think we might have done it this year, not because of this, but we just happened to do it. I think I might just every day we open, put the cards in different showcases. That way, if someone's casing the show on the Saturday and like, aha, this card's over here. And then when they come in Sunday and it's not there, they're, well, anything you can do to maybe confuse a would-be thief a little bit is worth thinking about as well. So I think I might, move showcases or move cards around just to throw a curveball. And again,
it's this year.
What's that?
But yeah, that this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Just say the word, Steve, and I'll fill up a showcase full of AEW. Now that might that'll either encourage or discourage. I have no idea.
We'll leave that in our most vulnerable showcase.
Yeah, but by the time it's done, I'll have more there. they'll leave more. They'll just take it as an invitation to add to the pile.
Yeah.
So I'll have a whole stack. It'll be great. But yes, I think and that's a valid takeaway. And I think that's the reason why I wanted to make sure we had the discussion, because again, it applies to trade nights. By the way, people forget, in trade nights, you're holding your stuff. You might be dealing with somebody, you're doing a trade with somebody, you're looking over here. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't the case that we had to go back to the 101 of like, look, you want to trust people, but there's trust, but validate. It doesn't hurt to have a second set of, again, literally just one person sitting there. They don't even have to be aggressive. They should just be sitting there, hanging out nearby is already a deterrent, because you've got somebody there that can see you. Yeah. And then that kind of discourages somebody from trying something, because just somebody being closer to that case would have been enough to be. The whole point of the distraction is to get people further away from the case to create some space. And that's basically what happened. Created some space between them and the item they wanted, and they were able to just walk off with. And it was already in a case with a lovely handle, so it could not have been made a little bit easier than it was, unfortunately. Yeah. So we wish them the best, and hopefully they're able to recover their items. And it's been cascaded far and wide, so I will say that. So from that perspective, I think we'll leave it at that. But some thoughts and some good lessons and takeaways that even apply in this case. Something that we can all learn, a lesson and a reminder. I think this provides. Perfect. So any last thoughts then before we start winding this one down on this one?
No, not really. Other than, again, that's awful what happened to this dealer, and hopefully he can recover as much as possible. And like we touched on, we can all learn something from it as well.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So we'll leave it at that as Carlos's coffee slowly starts to run out. So I'm at the tail end of this one. So I think it's a good time to put a button on this one. So we'll be back with another episode next week. We'll touch on some other items, especially as they come in. So now we're in the summer months. So maybe we'll touch on some of that, especially as we start making some accommodations. And then we get a little closer. What's going to be interesting, and maybe we'll touch on here in the next week or two. Next big show, it's going to come out. By the way, speaking of this topic and everything, it's interesting and a very stark reminder, because as we head into the National, there's going to be a lot of dealers out there with some high-end inventory, and I think they may be reevaluating their processes too. It might be a good reminder for them as well, especially with another big show coming up. So it'll be interesting to see as we lead up into it, especially when we get to the National, how things happen and how things go in regards to that. And then that'll take us into the rest of the summertime as we get into it. And before you know it, again, I want to enjoy the summer while we have it, but you blank and we'll be approaching Expo again. So, enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it while you can.
Rod and I will be heading to the National on the 23rd, and then we'll be going down to the Fanatics event in August. So hopefully I'll be able
you're doing the Fanatics event too. Oh, Shari, we're going to need reports from the ground. Yeah. Fanatics event. Oh, they're exciting.
Yeah, it will be good.
All right. So see, some things to look forward to. Now you know. Oh, I didn't know they were going to the Fanatics thing as well. So now, Steve, now I'm interested.
Neither did I.
Well, did you want us to send you as the AMG correspondent to Fanatics?
This is where I get most of my info on what's going on in the store. So thank you for that.
Perfect. All right. So that now on that bombshell, we'll call it an evening. So thank you, Shari, and thank you, Steve, collector of the scalps, collector of the people, and collector of shocking revelations. So we got that today. We've learned something new. So now we know. So this is episode 38 of AMG. You can check out, again, all the contact points at the bottom. You can also check out the audio version. Will be available on the podcast feed where you get podcasts, or come to the YouTube channel, leave a comment, give a like. we're on the cusp of 300 subscribers. So I'd like to see a couple more subscribers. Let's get to that number. We're right there. We're close by. So let's see if we can manage that. That'd be really great. We appreciate the engagement. So for this one, for Steve and Shari and myself, and everybody at AMG, we thank you for checking this one out. We will catch you in the next one.